Hi, I'm David Desero, and today I'm going to be reviewing A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. So, let's start off. So I originally picked up this book because the little quote it had on the front was by Stephen King, and it said, A head full of ghosts doesn't... Oh. And it said, A head full of ghosts scared the living hell out of me, and I'm pretty hard to scare. Who knew that Stephen King is an unreliable narrator? Now, I don't know if he just didn't read the book or maybe this is just what does it for him. I don't know. I mean, he's a legend, obviously. But to say it scared the living hell out of him, like one of the greatest horror writers of all time says this book scares the living hell out of him. So you would think it's scary, right? Right? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe for younger generations, the standards are different. Maybe we've seen too many things and it's harder to scare this younger generation. I don't know. But we're going to talk about this book. And first, I'm just going to read off the synopsis. A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. The lives of the Barretts, a normal suburban New England family, are torn apart when 14-year-old Marjorie begins to display signs of acute schizophrenia. To her parents' despair, the doctors are unable to stop Marjorie's descent into madness. As their stable home devolves into a house of horrors, they reluctantly turn to a Catholic priest for help. Father Wanderley suggests an exorcism. He believes the vulnerable teenager is the victim of demonic possession. He also contacts a production company eager to document the Barrett's plight. With John, Marjorie's father, out of work for more than a year, and the medical bills looming, the family agrees to be filmed, and soon find themselves the unwitting stars of The Possession, a hit reality TV show. When the events in the Barrett household explode in tragedy, the show and the shocking incidents it captures become the stuff of urban legend. 15 years later, a best-selling writer interviews Marjorie's younger sister, Mary, as she recalls those long-ago events that took place when she was just 8 years old. Long-buried secrets and painful memories that clash with what was broadcast on television begin to surface, and a mind-bending tale of psychological horror is unleashed, raising vexing questions about memory and reality, science and religion, and the very nature of evil. It doesn't really do much of that, but let's just get into it here. Okay. When you read a horror novel like this, the biggest question is, was it scary? No, this was not. I read this mostly on the graveyard shift while I was at work in a dark office, middle of the night, 3 a.m., and I didn't get creeped out in the slightest. And it never once, like, good stories will give you that feeling like somebody's watching you. Like something unsettling is happening. It'll make you look over your shoulder. You'll be reading, and it'll just be like, every little sound will have you turning like, that's my shadow. But, it never gave me that feeling. It was always just kind of like, okay, the tone was ominous enough to keep me reading, to feel like, okay, something's gonna happen, and you just kind of, and like little things, like they happen, things actually happen, so it's not a terrible book. I feel like I'm already shitting on it. It's not a terrible book, but was it scary? Did it do its job as a horror novel? No, I don't believe it did. Second, will the protagonist win you over? No, she doesn't really do much. I'm not sure what she could have done, but the story is more about her witnessing these events unfold. And it's mostly about her watching the events unfold and then reflecting as an adult and just trying to figure out what really happened. So, and 90% of the story is her in the 8-year-old perspective, just witnessing things. Things happen and she doesn't do anything. She's just there. She just happens to be there. And I mean, eventually she does some stuff, but in general, she really doesn't do much other than stand there and witness things. So it's hard to be like, yeah, oh man, I hope she does the thing that she's trying to do. She's not really trying to do anything other than figure out if her sister is actually schizophrenic or possessed by demons. And again, she doesn't really do anything to figure it out. But it's more the parents and the priest that kind of do everything, and the producers from the show that kind of keep things rolling. But did the book stick the landing? Yes. surprisingly, right? You would think I'm going to say bad things like, no, it was terrible, but it actually had a pretty good ending. In the final climactic scene, well, it was so beautifully written, and it gave me the chills, but not in the like, oh damn, this is crazy, scary, like edgier. See, it's more like, oh man, that was really sad. Like, and so it hits you on an emotional level, which is great. That's totally what that scene should do, and it's powerful, and and you don't really see it coming, unless, I mean, maybe some people did. I didn't see it coming, and then the very end has a twist. I'm not going to tell you what that is because I'm not going to spoil the story, but there's a twist that makes you think, damn, I need to I need to go back to the beginning now and read it all over again because I'll have a completely different experience. And I haven't read it the second time. I think it'll probably be a while before I do, just because it was a little slow at times. I'm sure eventually I'll go through it a second time and maybe I'll think, with this new light, in this new way, that the protagonist was better than I thought. But yeah, it's hard because I don't want to spoil anything. But definitely, I would say I had a good ending. I enjoyed the ending for sure. Now, why should you read this? I think if you're just a horror fan in general and you like stories about possession, this is one of those stories. And I personally am a fan of these kind of stories. So I was happy to read it and go out and get it because it is one of these kind of stories. And that's it. Like, that is the main reason you're going to want to read this, is if you like possession stories and if you like stories with a twist. It's both of these things. If you appreciate those, you'll probably be able to appreciate this. On the other hand, why shouldn't you read this? The blogger scenes. There's a blogger in this, and I want to say there's 2, maybe 3 instances. I think it's only a couple times where you're in the head of this blogger, and it's super cringy. It's over the top, like bubbly. The blogger has this really over the top bubbly personality, and it doesn't belong in the story at all. Like, it doesn't fit the tone. It kind of skews everything. Like, if you start to get a dark tone and then you get hit with that, it ruins it. Ruins the whole fucking thing. And then you start laughing like, what the fuck is this? What am I reading? Where did this come from? You just get blindsided by this cringe, and it's like, ugh. If they would have cut that out, the story would have been so much better. I almost skipped those blogger scenes just because I was like, it's taking me out. It's taking me out. I need to, like, it makes me stop and think, like, I'm reading a book. What was the author thinking here? He just decided, like, oh, this would be cool. Let's change up the pace, and just fucking threw that in there. And I was like, I'm not into it. Sorry. Oh, man. I just wasn't into the blogger scenes. My final thoughts on A Head Full of Ghosts is that the way this was told, it was really hard to not make this a slow story. Like, the pace is really slow, and you don't really know what the characters are trying to do. In The Exorcism, you root for the priest. You know he's trying to get the demon out of the girl. She's possessed, clearly. He has a clear goal in mind, and he goes after it. So you have something to root for. In The Exorcism of Emily Rose, you have a similar situation where you're trying to figure out, okay, is it a possession or is it mental illness? But the story is being told through the eyes of an attorney who's representing a priest. And the attorney, you know what her goal is. Her goal is she's trying to defend the priest. She has something she's working towards. So she needs these stories to really kind of pick apart how she's going to defend this man. And in the process, we learn everything that happens, and it's dark and scary, and it's a really good film. But the entire time, you know what's at stake, and you know what your character's goal is. In this one, Mary, the protagonist, this 8-year-old girl, like, you know she wants to find out, but at the same time, it doesn't really seem like she has a clear goal. There's no like, oh man, I wish she does this. Obviously, you don't want anything bad to happen to her. But outside of that, you're not really rooting for anything. You're just kind of like, okay, I mean, hope something interesting happens, and some things do, and it's okay. Um, but yeah, overall, I'd probably give it 3 out of 5 stars. That's my rating for A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below. Until next time, later.